All right, everybody, what is going on? Good evening. Coming at you guys with a little bit later than usual video because some things actually happened today for the Seattle Seahawks. Nothing like the Derick Hall news yesterday or even like the Myles Garrett stuff the previous day. This was more business as usual. This was more the typical stuff. So obviously not going to set off any fireworks with this one, but the Seattle Seahawks did have something of note happen today. It was expected and unexpected all at the same time. They had their second open OTA session and fourth overall at the VMAC. So let's talk about that a little bit. I don't have a ton based on what the beat reporters are saying, but I do have some stuff, so let's get into it. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Basically, overall, in terms of information gathered from the VMAC itself, there are a few things. It is thin. To me, the most interesting thing is that the OTAs are happening at all. And the reason why I say that is because last year, and I'm pretty sure the year before, the Seahawks had their first 3 OTAs, and then they canceled the last 3. This would be the first of the last 3. And I believe the 49ers have actually done this where they've canceled their second half of OTAs. So having the Seahawks under Mike Macdonald go through their fourth OTA is kind of rare. Now, what could cause that? I don't know. There are a couple different ways to interpret that. One, maybe he wasn't very happy with what he saw last week. Maybe he saw something out there he didn't like and was like, I got to get these guys back in here for a little bit to make sure we get to a place that I like before I send everybody home. Maybe it was simply because not everybody was there for the OTAs. One thing that some teams do is they will send players home in part as a reward if everybody shows up to the OTAs. And we did not have perfect attendance last week. DeMarcus Lawrence didn't show up until the second practice, and I think we had a couple guys not show up at all. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Maybe it's just a matter of we're trying to integrate some new players, but at the same time, not really, right? There's not been a lot of turnover on this roster. We have a new offensive coordinator, but that was true last year. And the new offensive coordinator has a lot in common with the last one, in theory. More on that a little bit later. So that's kind of the most interesting thing today, I think. I kind of expected Seattle to cancel their OTAs this week, but they went ahead and had at least one of them. Don't know why, but those are a couple different theories. Maybe it's just he's mixing it up. Maybe he's taking it easy on them during the OTAs. I don't know. So I think that's probably the most interesting thing about these OTAs, to be perfectly honest. And I don't believe that the rest of this week, we because we have 2 more, are going to be open to the media. So this might be about all we get. But piecing together what we can, just talking about what is there. First, Emmanuel Wilson, who was not there previously, was there today. So Emmanuel Wilson has arrived. And he's in a little bit of a dogfight for that roster spot. So he needs to be here. So that's good. He's got a leg up on McIntosh because it looks like McIntosh isn't fully healthy yet. But Emmanuel Wilson fighting for his roster spot. So good to see him in the building. And this was also our first opportunity to see Irv Charles, the player we traded for from the Jets, mostly a special teamer, but I think a very good one potentially. And you can see how big he is. Look at how big he is compared to these guys he's standing next to. It's a little Derick Youngish. There's a little bit of that going on here. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So Download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. Okay, so past that, the big news today and the big discussion point, even though I know this happened yesterday and we didn't necessarily get anything new, was Derick Hall, because Derick Hall just signed his extension. It's official now, by the way. I know that before it was pending. I know that technically it hadn't been signed yet. It's been signed now. So there was a lot of trash talk between Derick Hall and some of the other players. Apparently that's a thing. Derick Hall likes to talk trash, and he gets a lot of trash back in return. Here we got Devin Witherspoon interacting with him a little bit here. Witherspoon, according to Greg Bell, by the way, he expects Witherspoon to get extended sometime around late July. He's mitigating injury risk by not doing scrimmaging in OTAs. So that does maybe kind of speak some truth to the idea that I had earlier in this video about how maybe they're taking it so easy on the players at OTAs, they feel like they need to have a few more to compensate. Could be a thing. But at the same time, Devin Witherspoon's a special case. He does not need OTAs. Devin Witherspoon does not need to scrimmage to learn how to play football. He kind of knows how to play football already. So still wondering about that one a little bit. But one thing that a lot of people talked about today, and one thing that came up quite a bit, is Derick Hall, when asked, he actually went to the podium to talk about his extension. When he was asked why he didn't decide to wait, because of course it takes two to tango. Derick Hall could have said, I don't want to sign an extension right now. I want to play this year out on the contract year, and then I want to be able to get more money next year. He said, we're going to win a lot of games and a lot of championships here, so that's why I was willing to sacrifice what other people thought I might make. So what Derick Hall's basically saying is that he took less money, even though this is a player who has not made that much money in his NFL career yet, because he wanted to stay here. And you hear about players talk about this stuff sometimes. You hear about fans wishing that players would do this sometimes. Doesn't feel like it's that often that it actually happens. So this is pretty special, I think. Because, again, it'd be one thing if Derick Hall was 30 years old and had made $100 million in the NFL already, and he was like, I don't really care about getting every penny out of my career at this point. I just want to play. That's not the case. Derick Hall's 25 years old. Derick Hall was on a second-round pick rookie scale deal before this new contract. Derick Hall's not necessarily somebody who's made a lot of money outside of football. And he decided he'd rather be here at the number that he got, which is on just the extension. Even if you just take the extension, $14 million a year, maybe goes up to 15.5, instead of waiting and probably getting closer to what Boye Mafe got. Because Boye Mafe is probably not as good. He's older. He's a couple years older than Hall is right now. And he got $20 million a year. Derick Hall could have waited until next year and probably gotten, based on that, I'd say somewhere around $22 million a year. But he straight up said it, and I do believe him. I know some people are like, he's not really worth that much. He's not that good. I know he's not great, people. I understand that he's not some elite edge rusher. But with the way edge rushers get paid right now, I absolutely think if he waited a year and hit the open market, he would have gotten over $20 million a year. But that wasn't what was important to him. And that shows you what kind of a culture and what kind of an organization we're building here, that a player would actually do that. I say again, this is something that you very rarely see players do, especially young players. And I'm not going to say he's the only guy who's done it, but especially a guy like this, a guy who you would not necessarily expect to have a super long career, a guy who hasn't made that much money yet. I don't know. This one hit me. This one hit me differently because I kind of thought it yesterday when I saw the contract. I was like, I don't know why he'd do that. That's a little bit of a strange choice. I understand that he's mitigating injury risk, but for him to just come out and say it, whether or not how much he means it, I don't know. But I do think he left money on the table here, and he seems perfectly fine with that. So that's really cool. Now, some other stuff that came out of the OTA session today Corbin had this. Rashid Shaheed, and this came from Hawk Blogger as well, by the way. Rashid Shaheed had a really good day. Really looking for Shaheed to improve on what he gave us last year as a receiver, because he's better than what we saw from him last year as a receiver. I'm very confident in that. Shaheed can be a very good receiver in this league. He's proven it in New Orleans with worse quarterback play than what he's going to have now. So apparently he added a little bit more muscle to his frame, and he had a very good practice session. So good to see. We also heard a little bit from Sam Darnold. He talked a little bit about his offseason, and he also talked about Brian Fleury. And it all sounds good, right? He's basically saying, hey, it's very similar to what we had before. Brian Fleury worked in San Francisco under Shanahan, and Kubiak ran the Shanahan offense. But there are going to be some adjustments based on what they were doing in San Francisco, because Fleury was in San Fran for a long time. But generally speaking, it's not a radically different offense. This is not a massive change that is going to take months to relearn. This should be something that this team can hit the ground running with, as long as Fleury does a good job of objectively calling plays. The offense itself should not be an obstacle as long as the offense is good. So, good stuff here. Good little session with Sam Darnold. And to wrap up this video, I know about this. The Russell Wilson thing. I didn't think he was going to do this, but he did announce his retirement. And I'm not going to make a separate video about just that, because I basically made that video yesterday. The only difference was Russell Wilson was avoiding saying that he was going to retire explicitly yesterday. And now or 2 days ago, actually, now I guess it would be. And now he's come out and said, yeah, I'm retiring, which we already kind of knew. It's not like retirement is binding anyway, so it's not like he can't come back. But I'm going to save the Russell Wilson conversation that I want to have for probably sometime tomorrow. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. And those are your OTA highlights.